Welcome back, friends. It is horrible, miserable weather, and it's a good time to talk about vehicle preparedness. People every year get stranded in their vehicles in inclement weather like this, freezing rain. This is about as nasty as it gets. It's right at freezing, 32 degrees. It's slushy, it's icy, it's nasty. Road conditions are absolutely terrible, and there could come a point when you're driving along and you just decide, you make the call that the roads are just too unsafe to drive on and you need to stop. It's really not that big a deal. It's inconvenient for sure to be stuck on a road somewhere when the weather gets nasty like this, but it's really not that big a deal, and it should not be a survival situation if you're just a tiny bit prepared. Dress accordingly. You know it's wintertime. Have good socks and boots on, a jacket. Make sure that you're prepared for that. I think that goes without being said. And in the back of the vehicle, have just a few supplies to keep yourself warm. A lot of people on I-95 that were stranded kept their cars running, kept the heat flowing because they were unprepared, and then they ran out of gas, and then it got really, really cold again. A vehicle is an excellent shelter, but it has limitations. I've done videos on vehicle preparedness or vehicle breakdowns before, and I've had comments along the lines of a vehicle is a terrible shelter. You'd be better off getting out and building a fire. Okay, do that with 3 small children and your wife in the conditions that are happening right now. It is not ideal situation. Staying in the vehicle is a much, much smarter situation. It's waterproof, it's windproof, and it's going to be much more insulated than anything I'm going to be making out here. So in this bag, going on along the same lines of insulations, I've got about 5 or 6 sleeping bags in here. These are inexpensive military surplus bags. They're not crazy warm for super warm temperatures, but where I live, the 30s to 20s at night is pretty normal. Anything into the teens and below is really abnormal. It's not going to really get that cold. So if you're properly dressed and you've got these sleeping bags, you're going to be okay. You're going to be warm enough. And like I said, I've got 5 or 6 in here. Everybody's got their own. Everybody can get in and snuggle up and be cozy. Even Maggie's got one. In this bag, I've also got just some bottled waters. Everybody's got at least 2. I think there's 2 for everybody in this bag. Yes, I realize that only 2 small bottles of water is not a ton, but I also have means of water filtration. Sorry, Max. Water filtration in my pack here, so I can head down to the closest creek. I can collect some snow, some rainwater, whatever it is. And where I live, there's no shortage of water. If I walk that way about 100 yards, I'll hit some sort of stream, guaranteed. I can filter that water and have plenty to drink, while everybody else stays warm and cozy in the vehicle inside their sleeping bags. I've got a couple of first aid kits in here, actually. This is a really, really solid one, a really comprehensive one from Refuge Medical. That's a really good one. And then I've got a less expensive one here from TruSpec, but it has some, boo-boo Band-Aids and things like that in it that can help get the job done if needed. Icy conditions. People are slipping, crashing, sliding off the road. There's definitely a chance of you coming across somebody that needs some help. So that's what that's for. I've also got some other camping gear and things like that in this pack. I've done a video on kind of what's in here. From my own personal sleeping bag, I've got a stove to cook food. In this pack, I've also got a saw here. This is the Silky Big Boy. And once it's opened up, this thing can go through some pretty good sized material. If there was a tree across the road, as long as it wasn't giant, this could probably get it out of our way enough for us to pass through. If I wanted to build a fire or something next to the road, if I'm stuck on this isolated, desolate backcountry road like this, and I wanted to build a fire, a big one, I could probably make it happen, and I could gather a crap load of firewood with this. I've got a stove, a simple stove, and a fuel canister in order to cook some freeze-dried foods that I've got, like the Mountain House meals and things, so you can have a hot meal inside the car, no issues. And I could cook right here. The way this vehicle is set up, this gives me a little bit of overhead shelter, so I can cook my food and stuff right here. Yes, some heat's going to get let out of the vehicle, I get it, but everything's kind of a compromise. So it's either I stand out here in the sleety, wet, rainy snow, or I get a little bit of shelter while I'm making that happen. Snack foods are a great idea. Trail mixes, stuff that you don't have to cook, beef jerkies, nuts, and all that kind of stuff is a great idea. But also in here, we've got some canned goods like canned tuna fish, that kind of stuff, which will make the car smell really fantastic. And then I've got about a week's worth of food for one individual, which is more than enough for all of us to kind of ration out for a couple days if we were stuck in this vehicle of Mountain House Foods in here. Having ways to entertain the kiddos in a situation like this is pretty important, because they're going to get irritable and annoyed just like they are in real life right now. So we've got, you know, coloring books. Tablets are a good idea, but then you got to recharge them, which is a thing. No big deal. Your battery's probably not going to die to recharge a tablet a couple times. But that was definitely something to consider. So when I say Chinese fire drill, you guys are going to get out as fast as you can. And we're going to run around the car and get in a different seat. Are you ready? Get set. Chinese! Go! Maggie! Scooch, Maggie! Get down! You guys are slow. What a slow fire drill that was. So I realize that the Chinese fire drill may be offensive to some, so we're going to rename the Chinese fire drill to the circumnavigation, relocation, seating position drill. It's easier to say, I think, too. All right, guys, boots off. Get in your sleeping bag. Put your boots in the floor so they don't get nasty mud all over everything.
I'm just gonna sleep back here.
That's the plan.
What?
But we'll get in here, we'll snuggle up. The kids can lay down and take a nap. They can read their books. They can color, use their tablets, whatever it is, to pass the time. And then hopefully the weather gets better and we'll be able to get ourselves out of here. I've got a little bit of toilet paper here. That's something that a lot of people, I think, forget about. But if you got to use the bathroom, you got to go. And if kids are going up here in the woods and needing to use the bathroom, a little bit of toilet paper could make all the difference. This is a Titan light from Exotac, and I'm digging it so far. It's a refillable. All the parts, the wicks and everything are replaceable. So this could be really a lifetime lighter, and it works really, really well. And that's what I'm going to use to light up my stove. Lasagna. Lasagna sounds good. You guys in?
Yes.
Zip it, turds.
I want this.
Give me that. So we've got tea, a little bit of sugar and things like that. Just a few packets of tea so we could have a hot brew. That's great. I should probably put a little bit more in there now that I'm going through this stuff. As you actually do the simulated scenario, it makes you really, really think about the stuff that would come in handy, like extra dishes and silverware and all that kind of stuff.
No.
Who hates lasagna?
Me.
You're such a weirdo.
And spaghetti.
What kind of freak doesn't like spaghetti?
Me.
Gosh.
Hey, yo.
Our body heat between all 6 of us, including this nasty wet dog here, are heating up the small space that's inside of the vehicle. Now, if you were a lone individual inside of like a great big cargo van or something, that probably would not be the case. And yeah, it would get pretty cold in there, I think. I don't think your body heat would ever warm it up. So you could probably do some sort of external heat source kind of like this. I've seen all kinds of, makeshift heaters and starting fires inside cans and things like that inside your vehicle, and I think that's probably not very practical. But something like this, just this small Exotac candle with 3 wicks on it, made from beeswax. It says it'll last 16 hours. 16 hours with all 3 of them lit? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's just 1 lit at a time. I don't know how exactly that works. But this could probably heat up the inside of our vehicle pretty well. Keep our dog warm. But we would definitely want to crack some windows and keep some fresh ventilation going on in here, because otherwise we might asphyxiate ourselves. So let's light this puppy up and see how it does.
Into the light.
Okay.
I want to eat now.
Pad thai is finished. And we could easily all of us have a nice hot meal inside the car, out of the weather, out of the rain, sitting by our fireplace here, and just stay warm and dry and not die. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous that people could die in a situation on a highway surrounded by hundreds of other people and freeze to death. It just doesn't make sense if you're just a tiny, tiny little bit prepared. Dress appropriately, pack sleeping bags, put a little food in the car, some water. That's one thing. Putting water in your vehicle in the wintertime can be tricky because it might freeze overnight and you'll have just a block of ice. So that's tough. You may have to take your water in and out of the vehicle. If you have a big jerry can or something, you might have to put it inside the house to keep it from freezing at night. You might have to insulate it somehow, wrap it in some blankets, who knows. But that might be tricky. But having some water on you, or maybe just each person has their own individual water bottle that they take with them in the vehicle when they head out, might be the easiest way to do it. But for the short term, if you're here for a day or two, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's cramped and inconvenient, but you're not going to die as long as you're a tiny, tiny bit prepared. As approximate and for 1 wick at a time, 5.3 hours each. That's it. So if you burn all 3 of them, it's probably not going to last 16 hours. It's only going to last probably 5 hours with all 3 burning at the same time. But that's okay. It'll give us max heat. We don't have to burn it the whole time. And, you know, if you're not low on fuel, that's another thing. A quarter tank is empty. And that you should just treat your vehicle as such. If you get to a quarter tank, imagine that is the empty mark and you're out of gas. And if you do that, you won't run out of gas. And just every now and then, if we wanted to crank up the vehicle and get the heat rolling, we could do that. That wouldn't be an issue unless you're, you know, out of gas to start with.
Thank you.
What happened?
You spit a piece of paper at me.
Oh God. That's it. That is it. That is it.
That's called a noogie.
Get in the back. Get in the back. Get in the back.
No, it's awful.
All right. So another tactic for keeping warm, well, you can wrestle with your children. That would work probably. In a confined space like this, would probably get pretty steamy in here. Another thing that you can do is, if the weather's not absolutely terrible, you're not going to get soaking wet, you could get out and do some exercises, do some squats. You'll warm up. Really, if you're cold, there's no excuse other than being lazy. If you get out and do 100 squats, you won't be cold anymore. I guarantee it. I promise. If the weather's absolutely horrible and you're in this confined space, you can do isometric contractions. Basically, an isometric contraction is contracting your muscles is strong as hard as you can, but without shortening or lengthening the muscles. You don't even have to move, really. Like, basically, I can squeeze all the muscles in my body at the same time. I can squeeze the steering wheel, I can flex all my muscles, and then relax. And then flex all the muscles in my body, and then relax. It looks silly, you feel kind of silly doing it, but it will warm you up, I promise. You do 100 of those, where you flex all the muscles in your body at the same time, you'll be warm. Guaranteed. I used that tactic actually while hunting before in a tree stand, and it actually works. So there's something else that you can do to help keep yourself warm. But anyway, thanks so much for watching, guys. I really, really appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up, leave us a comment. Tell me what you think about my crazy family jammed in this car. And then we will see you on the next video. Really hard. Flex. Good. Don't forget to breathe.
Huggy. Stop. Dad. Come on, give me some. More than me.
Get out of my face.
No. Stop.
No.
Becky. Her whole head's